A powerful storm that swept across Europe caused severe flooding, widespread power outage and transportation chaos, with the emergency service struggling to cope with one of the most destructive weather events of the year in the region. The system caused by warm Atlantic air colliding with a cold continental front initially hit Portugal and Spain, dumping nearly the month's worth of rain in 24 hours. The streets of Valencia and Porto turned into rivers, with the cars adrift in turbulent waters. It looked like the whole city was driven, said resident Marta Silva. Moving north, the storm intensified over the France, while gusts of up 114 km/h uprooted trees and tore on roofs. The level of the Loire and Garonne rivers rose dangerously, forcing the evacuation of residents from low-lying village. More than 400,000 households were left without electricity. We haven't seen such a rapid rise in the river levels in more than 10 years, said hydrologist Pierre Lemar. In Germany, the region most affected torrential rain overwhelmed drainage system from Bavaria to North Rhine-Westphalia, rapid flash flooding, inundated basements, underground parking lots and railway tunnels. In Iran, it now is its high level in the season, forcing to clear soon in shipped roads. It was terrible, saying Munich shop owner Anna Baker. When in minutes the water rushed under the doors as a dam had burst. Central Europe faced equally several conditions. Austria and Czech Republic and Slovakia reported landslides after the rain-saturated slopes gave way. Train service across the region were suspended due to debris falling in tracks. Emergency service described the workload and almost non-stop. Meanwhile, southern region of Italy and Slovenia experienced flash flood caused by the sudden downpour. Sirens sounded throughout the Venice and high tides combined with the storm surge flooded historic squares. Experts warn that this situation is becoming increasingly common. Storm systems in Europe are intensified, say climatologist Dr. Yelena Karas. Warning ocean and unstable air currents are exacerbating extreme precipitation and winds. Authorities are urging residents to avoid rivers, stay indoors, and prepare to more severe weather and storm continue to move eastward. Storm make landfall overnight, hampering Portugal and Spain, with the towering waves and a rainfall total non-sleep in years. In coastal Galicia, when the gusts exceeded 115 km/h, rapid apart, burying docks and flooding entire waterfront districts. The sea looked like it was boiling, said fisherman Luis Andrade. As the system moved east, France witnessed catastrophic impacts. Rivers surged beyond their banks, submerged roads, and cut dozens of communities. In Normandy, firefighters carried stranded residents from second floor window and flood waters reached waist-deep levels within minutes. This was not rain, this was a wall of water, said local residents Maria Dudis. Germany, however, was submerged the storm epicenter, a region already saturated by the weeks and unstable weather, were hit by another barrage and intense downpour. Streets in Calgary and Düsseldorf turned into swelling torrents. Airports were delayed to cancel it as winds battered a runway. It's the most extreme rainfall ever we recorded in early winter, noted meteorologist Dr. Janice Miller. Further east, Australia, Hungary and the Czech Republic activated national emergency protocols after sudden cold bursts overwhelmed drainage networks. Railway operations reported widespread cancellation with the passengers stranded in station overnight. In the south, Italy, Slovenia and Croatia faced violent thunderstorm had rising levels. Venice activated an immersed fluid barriers, but even with the definite rising parts of the city experienced aqua alta flooding. Climatologists watched the storm and usual strength in the high energy jet streams. Warning seas in the eastern Atlantic are injecting more moisture into these systems, explained climate analyst Dr. Sophia Ricci. When they collide with the cold continental air, the results are explosive. European authorities are urged residents to stay indoors, avoid flooded areas, and expect further disruption as the storm continues in slow destructive march across the continent. Several music festivals and outdoors events were cancelled, leaving thousands of visitors stranded in makeshift shelters. Switzerland too reported significant damage. In Zurich and Lorentz, public transport was suspended as a hail closed rail lines and flooded tram tunnels. Airways saw delays, where insurers prepared for the decided one of the most expensive summer storms in recent years. Hospitals across affected countries treated hundreds of injuries from cuts of barriers and the most serious trauma caused by the fallen debris. Power outage hit tens of thousands of homes while schools and businesses closed in the hardest hit regions. Meteorologists explained that the storm was triggered by the collisions of humid Mediterranean air with the cold northern winds, producing intense supercells capable of generating giant hail. Scientists warn such events are becoming more frequent as Europe warns. We are seeing a climate shift, say climatologist Dr. Eva Schinder. Storms like these, once rare, are now growing through it. Despite the disruption, communities are relevant. Volunteers cleared streets of ice, neighborhood sheltered fruits and extended travels, and an emergency crew worked tirelessly to restore power. As Europe began counting the cost and a hailstorm severe as another stark reminder of nature growing volatility and the urgent need to resilience in affairs of climate experts. A powerful storm system was battered much of Europe, leaving a trail of destruction, transport, chaos, and a human tragedy in this way. The storm, which brought hurricane-force wind, torrential rain, and heavy snowfall in high areas, has affected countries such as France, Germany, Poland, Austria, and Balkans. In a Paris, wind knocked down trees and damaged roofs, while trains and flights were delayed. In Bavaria, Germany, hail and strong gusts battered small towns, breaking windows and damaged vehicles. The Netherlands reported severe coastal flooding as waves to 6-meter high hit decks and pots. Authorities confirmed at least a dozen fatalities across the continent, including drivers caught in the flash flooding and persistent stuck by fallen debris. Hundreds of thousands of homes were left without power overnight, and emergency service received thousands of calls. Witnesses described terrified conditions. The roof of our town was lifted up and a few away in the where paper said, "Now I can the South Poland." In Austria, sky reports were cut off by avalanches, trapped tourists and the staff.
Well, that's one hell of a hailstorm.
Farmers in Lower Saxony reported devastation, losers in their crops and greenhouses, and about destroyed it. Insurance experts warned that the damage could be cost millions, placing in additional body and economy elderly and person. Germany Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed condolences of the family to the victims and promised swift federal aid. We stand together in the face of this catastrophe, he said, adding the climate adaptation must become a national priority. Meteorologists warn the storm and the magnitude may become more frequent as a warning season to call unstoppable weather across North Europe. At a time, rescue operations continue in flooded town in the mountains valley, with the soldiers, firefighters and volunteers working side by side. For many Germans, in storm will be remembered not only the force but a stark reminder of the growing risk of climate change. Istanbul was hit by a sudden and severe hailstorm that turned a bustling metropolis into a scene of chaos and destruction. The storm, which lasted less than an hour, brought hailstones the size of a golf ball, smashed windows, damaged cars and injured dozens of people who were outdoors. The city's streets were quickly covered with a white layer of hail, with a blockade and severe and causing sudden flooding. Major highways, including Bosphorus Bridge, were paralyzing and cars were unable to drive through the city's sewers. Public transport was severely disrupted. Tram lines were blocked and ferry service across the strait were suspended. Istanbul International Airport also reported delays after runways were brilliantly covered in hail. Emergency service responded there hundreds of calls, rescuing people trapped in their cars and clearing collapsing owners and heat collapsing under the weight of hail. Hospitals treated dozens of people and cars and heat injuries, and authorities confirmed at least 2 deaths related to the storm. Residents described a sense of panic. It felt like the sky was falling. The noise of hail falling on the roof was different. In a matter of minutes, our streets looked like a cat snowed, said Ais Demir, a shop owner in Cadio. Video posted online showed buses stuck knee-deep in the water and trees blocked by the force of the storm. Agriculture in the surrounding Marmara region suffered significant damage. Vineyard and orchards were damaged, threatening in the harvest and local livelihood. Insurance companies are already estimated the damage of tens of millions of euros. Powerful storms swept across France, caused destructive wind, torrential rain, and widespread flooding that left millions of people homeless. Authorities say it's one of the most severe weather events in the country in recent years. The Atlantic coast was hardest hit by the storm, with the wind gusts reaching 116 km/h in the Brittany and Normandy. Streets were littered, the fallen trees, roofs were torn off, houses and boats crashed into the harbour wall. It was one of the sea wanted to swallow the city, said fisherman Alain Dupont from the Saint Malo, describing the waves crashing about the pier. Paris was not spared either. Heavy rain overwhelmed the capital drainage system, flooding parts of the metro and forcing passengers at the waist through the neck-deep water. Emergency service responded to more than 700 calls across the country in just 24 hours. Power outage affected nearly 500,000 people, particularly in the western region, and utility companies working around the clock to restore service. Central Europe was not less affected. In Switzerland and Austria, transport was paralyzed. Trains were stopped due to landslides and flights were cancelled in Zurich and Vienna. In Poland, emergency services received hundreds of calls and trees blocked major highways and power lines fell. Meteorologists explained the storm's threat the collision to the warm Mediterranean air with a cold Arctic front, which according to one expert created perfect conditions to the storm. Climatologist Marta Silva warned, such extreme weather is no longer a rarity. They are becoming a new norm. At least 20 people have been reported dead and hundreds injured across Europe. Tens of thousands of people remain without electricity. European leaders have promised to provide aid and fund to recovery, but it could take weeks to rebuild. For many, this night of destruction will be forever etched to their memories. As one of the Munich residents said, Europe has seen storms before, but never have so much countries have been hit so hard at the same time. A series of powerful hailstorms swept across Europe, causing chaos, destruction, and dramatic scenes from Italy to Germany, France, and Croatia. The storm intensified the collision of the most Mediterranean air and the cold front moving from the north brought the Gulf-sized hailstorms, strong winds, and torrential rain disrupted transport, agriculture, and daily life in several countries. In northern Italy, the region in Lombardy and Emilia-Romagna were worst affected. A road turned wide and a hailstorm blacked crosses in a minute, smashed car wide shift, and destroyed it vineyard and crops. It sounded like a shot of the roof, say Marco Rossi, a resident of Bologna, describing the definite noise of a cave pounding its house. Meanwhile, in southern Germany, emergency service responded to hundreds of calls when powerful supercell storm hit Bavaria. Roofs were damaged, trees were uprooted, and train service were temporarily suspended. In Munich, trams and buses were suspended after the ice blocked tracks. We haven't seen such large hailstorms in many years, said meteorologist Anna Weber of the German Meteorological Service. In France of the storm front caused chaos in a rural Alps region where dramatic footage showed hail covering fields like snow. We are dealing with a widespread roof damage and power outage, said Bavarian Fire Chief Markus Keller, who described the situation as apocalyptic. In southern France, vineyard and orange severely damaged, with some region reported a total loss of crops. Farmers in province of Rhône-Alpes region experienced a disaster after huge hailstones destroyed their vineyards. The storm took everything. Limited windmark pulp, Gerard, the harvest we have been waiting for all year is gone. In Central and Eastern Europe, hailstorm intensified. In Poland, the city of Krakow was hit by torrential rain, with freezing rain that flooded streets and damaged cars. In Austria, large hailstorms caused flights, delays, and forced airports at the close temperatures. Meteorologists attributed this storm weather is unstable atmospheric layers, which are intensified due to global warming. Europe is now experiencing for more connective storms, phenomena accompanied by supercell lightning and giant hailstorms, explained Dr. Petra Long in European Meteorological Observatory. This is not a longer rarity, is becoming part of new normal. Authorities across the continent continue to assess the damage, warning the future determination of weather conditions, while cleanup crews work to repair the damage caused by the ice storm. Many residents describe the surreal scene. Summer streets transformed into winter landscape in a matter of minutes.
它那里还会亮。
Uprooted trees and damaged power lines. It sounded like a fire train rushed through the city, say Munich resident Johannes Keller, describing the terrifying moment when the storm hit. France faced severe coastal flooding, especially along the Atlantic coast. In a vortex, storm surge flooded streets with strong winds, small window, and overturned car. Local authorities declared a state of emergency and urged cities to stay indoors. We haven't seen conditions like this in decades, say Major Alice Laurent. In Catalonia region of Spain, flash floods washed away cars and caused landslides in the mountain area. Rail and air travel were disrupted and hundreds of flights across Europe cancelled. Meteorologist service confirmed that the storm area received more than 115 millimeters of rainfall in less of 24 hours. Experts warn of the weather in Europe is becoming increasingly unstable. Storm in this magnitude used to occur on every 20 years.
下冰雹啦！
Paris, France, the hit of European most iconic city through the interdisary as a violent overnight storm battered Paris and surrounding suburbs, leaving behind the trail of destruction rarely seen in modern times. The fire and tempest driven by the deep Atlantic pressure system unleashed torrential rainfall, different thunder and hurricane-force winds, plunged parts of the capital in the darkness and the chaos. According to the Meteor of France, Paris endured record-breaking rainfall, more than 16 millimeters in just 4 hours, flooding entire districts including said German Dispel, Baseline and Latic Water. The city again drainage networks strategically to cope tuning cobblestone streets into fast-moving rivers. It was terrifying, said Claire Depot, who lives near Jared Lion. Within minutes, water was knee-deep. Cars were flooding. The lighting was so bright it felt like it drying for a second. Authorities reported over 1,800 emergency calls, with firefighters rescuing dozens trapped in the basements and underground car park. On a Monday, tornadoes swept through the area in North Paris, knocking down trees, construction cranes, killing one person and seriously injuring 4 others, authorities said. The town of Airmont, located about 20 km northwestern of Paris, was hardest hit, with a sudden wildbeat damaged about 10 neighborhoods. Regional professor Jill Rebraz said 23-year-old construction worker died at a construction site and 10 people were injured, for them critically. Authorities said the tornado knocked down cranes and turned off-road. Interior Minister Larry News said of Platform X that was a storm sudden of rare intensity. He added, "I am closely monitoring the situation and experienced by a support official. Rescue at the scene the affected residents. I offer my condolences on the family and loved one of the deceased." Paris, the French capital, was brought to standstill on Wednesday, and the night a sudden and violent storm swept across northern France, unleashing torrential rain, violent winds and dramatic lightning over the heart of Paris. Within just 19 minutes, more than 100 millimeters of rain fell in a heaviest downpour recorded in over 2 decades.
El contenedor y el coche, madre mía, mira cómo baja, madre mía, esto me da mi...
This was an unexceptional weather event, said Franco Delit, spokesman of French National Meteorological Service, Meteor France. The storm formed rapidly over the Atlantic and intensified it as it reached the Paris basin, a pattern we have seen more often due to rising sea surface temperatures. Paris Mayor Ana Hidalgo urged residents to remain caution, warning they feel the storm forecast in the coming days. We are facing the realities of the climate change, she said. Our city must strengthen the drainage system and emergency infrastructure. As the drone broke Paris woke a scene of chaos, flooded the metro assistant, trenches, debris streets, and it smelled the wet stone rising from the historic ruins. Yet many damaged many experienced relief the scene of the remained below critical flood levels. Paris was seen centuries of the storm, said local historian Jean-Luc Bernard. But each time we are reminded no beauty and fragility walk hard in the heart in the city. In Germany, the state of Bavaria and North Rhine-Westphalia were hit hard. Rail services were suspended in several regions after falling trees damaged overhead lines, with the schools remaining closed in precipitation. Dutch Brown warning passengers in significant delays in cancellation. Meteorologists attribute the extreme weather and deep Atlantic low-pressure system golden with the unstoppably warm continental air and volatile mix and intensified the storm power. Dr. Helena Richer from the European Climate Observatory stated, "We are witnessing more frequent and violent weather patterns to shift atmospheric circulated linking to climate change." The storm also caused coastal surge in Netherlands and Belgium, although the reinforcing flood buried out along the vulnerable zone. In Amsterdam, channels overflowed and forcing evacuation in low-lying districts. Airports across Europe, including Frankfurt, Paris channels, and Madrid, Belgia, reported flight cancellation and diversions extended thousands of traveling overnight. Communities across Europe are in shock after a series of rare and powerful tornadoes swept through the parts of Germany, France, and Czech Republic, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Authorities have confirmed numerous casualties and more than 200 injured, with the homes destroyed, cars overturned, and power lines downed. Western Germany was the hardest hit by the powerful wind which swept throughout the residential area, poured down, injured dozens of people, and damaged hundreds of buildings. Roofs were turned off, trees were uprooted, and debris was scattered across highways. It was like a freight train rushing throughout the city, said Catherine Miller, who took shelter in a basement with their family. In northern France, a tornado struck near Calais, overturned trucks on the A18 motorway and forcing several paths to close. Residents are decided chaos in the hail, lightning, and stones when battered cities already drenched in the heavy rain. The Czech Republic still resilient from the devastating tornado in 2021, reported another several storm in southern Bavaria, where homes and farms again destroyed it. Emergency services rushed to help stranded residents and volunteers working through the night to clear debris from narrow rural streets. Meteorologists say the tornadoes formed after the mass of hot Mediterranean air collided with a cold front moving from the Arctic, creating unstable conditions ideal to supercell storms. Experts warn that the climate change could make Europe more vulnerable to such rare but devastating events. Tornadoes were once considered almost impossible here, explained climatologist Dr. Helena Novak. Now they are becoming a dangerous new reality. The infrastructure of the three countries take for serious damage. Rail rail service was suspended, tens of thousands of people were left without power due to power outage, and schools were closed to several regions. Insurance companies estimate the damage in the hundreds of millions of euros. Despite the devastation, there are stories of resilience. Neighbors farmed human change of cleared debris, firefighters rescued trapped families, and the shelters opened their doors to lose their homes. As Europe began the long process of recovery, the tornado several stock reminded that extreme weather is no longer confined to remote regions. It now pauses to grow through to hit to the continent. The Spanish Meteorological Service has declared a red alert for the eastern parts of the Valencia region due to heavy rain. Thursday, a repeat of the flooding that killed 235 people in the area last October. Spanish National Meteorological Service warned of extreme danger and a very difficult situation in Tarragona, Castilla and Valencia on a Sunday and Monday. On this warning was echoed Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. Citing of meteorological warning, Sánchez urged citizens to follow the instruction of the emergency service to all times. Local official announced that school and college, libraries and parks, as well as public spaces including gardens, markets and cemeteries would be closed in the Valencia on a Monday. Overnight rains caused local flooding and overflowing of Rio Aldea, one of the town hardest hit by October 2024 flooded that killed more than 213 people. No casualties have been reported. On a Sunday afternoon, residents of the city received a red weather alert on this phone. The flooding caused by heavy rains in October last year were exacerbated by the effect of climate change. As a warming atmosphere holds more water, climate change increasing the risk and intensity of the flood from extreme rainfall. Local residents trudged to a series of protests against for the believed this mismanagement of last year's crisis calamity. The regional offices did not warn in the time, despite the fact that meteorological service had issued warning. Saragossa, the capital of Spain, Aragon region, was hit by catastrophic flooding after continuous rainfall caused the Ebro River in these tributaries and burst their banks. According to the official sources, more than 118 millimeters of rain fell in 36-hour, a record for the last decade. Entire neighborhoods along the river were flooded, forcing hundreds of people to evacuate, and rescue teams used boats to reach residents who were trapped. Schools and businesses remained closed, and authorities converted the sports hall into temporary shelters for the families left homeless. At least 3 people were confirmed dead, and dozens of injured in the traffic incidents and building collapsing related for the floods. In the city center, cars floated along flooded boulevards, and underground parking left and the sideway station were filled in water in a matter of minutes. Rail service in Aragon was suspended, and a highway connecting Saragossa, Madrid, and Barcelona were closed after landslides buried sectors on the road. Local residents described the sense of apocalypse. In just half an hour, water poured into the streets like a river. We lost everything in the first floor, said Maria Lopez, whose family home in the Actor districts was flooded. Farmers across Aragon have also suffered devastation. Losers flooded wheat fields, vineyards, and livestock found territory in month on harvest and livelihood. The economic damage is already estimated of tens of millions of euros. Insurance companies are prepared for the wave of insurance claims. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has promised immediate aid and emergency support, stressing that the community will be left without help. Air traffic across Europe was disrupted, with hundreds of flights cancelled or diverted. Truck driver forced a dangerous motorway to ferry service across the North Sea were suspended. Meteorologists say the storm is a part of unusually active weather patterns that has swept across the continent and intensified due to the collisions of warm air masses with the cold Arctic front. We have seen storms and gathered intensify and unpredictability, which are constant to climate change trend. As dawn broke, the full extent of the damage became more apparent. Europe leaders have promised to allocate emergency funds to aid in the recovery, but the many residents in the shock remain strong. One moment we were having dinner, and the next the roof was gone. Recall Italian Marco Bianchi and the natural Roman who is both here. A sudden and severe hailstorm swept across southern Poland, leaving scene of destruction in its wake and prompted urgent calls to help. The storm, which struck on a Monday evening, battered towns and villages with a hailstone the size of walnuts, smashing windows, damaged cars, and destroyed crops in the middle of the harvest season. Farmers in the Motopolska and Podkampasia region reported catastrophic losses. In the 10 minutes, everything he had worked in the year was destroyed, said Poret Novak, a farmer from the near Tarnow. The fields looked and someone had chopped them up with the knives. Agriculture representative estimated hundreds of hectares of corn, potatoes and orange have been destroyed, with the could lead higher food prices in the coming month. Residents described chaos and the hail-pounded roofs and blanket rain caused sudden flooding in the city streets. Emergency service responded to hundreds of calls, and a fire crews worked through the night and cleared debris and secured damaged homes. Fortunately, no deaths were reported, although several people suffered minor injuries from the broken glass. Local authorities are assessing the damage with estimated to be tens of millions of euros. The Polish Meteorological Institute was warned for the Celtic cold most storms in the coming days are unstoppable weather continue to prevail in Central Europe. Climatologists note in the frequency of such extreme weather events in increasing. Hailstorm of this intensify used to be a rare phenomenon, but climate change is affecting weather conditions across the continent, said Dr. Marta Silva and the climatologist of University of Warsaw. For many, recovery will be long to difficult. We will build everything, but it seems that nature is tasting other more year, said residents Anna Kowalska, standing near the destroyed greenhouse. Spain is reeling after a violent storm swept through the large part of the country, bringing torrential rain, violent wind and sudden hailstorms that turned streets into river overnight. The region of Madrid, Valencia and Andalusia were among the hardest hit, as emergency service walked through the night and the rescue stated residents to clear blocked roads. Meteorologists described the event as one of the most intense autumn storms in recent years. It will the guest exceeded 120 km/h in the capital areas. The Spanish weather agency issued red alert, warning cities to stay indoors and avoid unnecessary travel. In Madrid, heavy flooding forced the closure of several metro stations and caused several traffic chaos. It was like a waterfall coming down the streets, said local resident Laura Gomez. Cars were flooding, trees were falling. It felt apocalyptic. In Valencia, firefighters reported the dozens of emergency calls, and the flash flood inundated in low-lying neighborhoods. Major Boulevard from Camps Elias and Boulevard Saint Germany turned to Russian River submerged vehicles including metro station. The Red B and Light 7 were partially suspended water pouring on the tracks while traffic ground and a half along the scene were rising water tethering the riverbanks and cafes. The water came like in a wave, said cafe owner Marta Silva. Those small restaurant near multiple that flooded with a minute. People were screaming cheers while flooding. It felt like a city was drawing. The Loire Museum and Musée Audrey both activated flood protection barriers moving earthworks store and ground to the high floors, a precaution not taken since the Great Flood of 2016. The Elef Tower temporarily closed a light storm stuck nearly creating a surreal stain that thinly echoes across the darkened skyline. Authority reported no fatalities, though at least 14 people were rescued from submerged vehicles and several were treated to hypothermia. Emergency crew worked throughout the night and pumped water from the metro tunnels and cleared fallen trees that blocked roads in the 16th and 19th arrondissements.